All right. How are you, Scott?
I'm really well. I'm in London. It's miserable out there, but that's not affecting how I feel.
Same, same when I live there. Like people always ask about the weather, but there's so many things to do there. I hardly notice it.
Yeah, totally, totally, totally. It's like the center of the universe, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, say more about that before we dive into other topics.
It's just I always say like and I'm going to rub people up the wrong way that
Mm,
live in New York, but to me, London is the center of the world. Like in many
mm,
different ways. It's like green. Just starting with like Universal Time is in Greenwich. That's in is
mm,
London. Then you look at sort of finance, banking, comes from London. There's the British Empire kind of thing as well, and then just like London itself these days, it's such an international city. You can walk down the street and there's anywhere you go in London, there's like it's like almost every continent in the world is kind of represented.
mm, mm,
Um, like language, language. You see that in the culture, and then there's like the fashion, the arts, the music. Um, it seems to me like it either starts in London or it sort of very quickly comes to London.
mm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then there's just the travel as well. Like it's just such an easy place to travel from. Like everywhere feels very London feels very connected. In terms of where you want to go traveling, whether you're going to the Americas, whether you're going to Europe or Africa or Asia's. I'm going to India next week. It's like a 10-hour flight. Um, so yeah, so like, but when I'm in the States, for example, if I go out to California, I feel like I'm on the edge of the world.
That's true. Yeah. Mm.
As much, as beautiful as California is, and as much as I love it there, but it feels very disconnected from what's happening in the world for some reason.
Mm,
Uh,
mm,
and same with New York as well. Like New York's like its own thing.
mm, mm,
Like when you're in New York, the world doesn't exist as far as I'm
mm.
concerned.
Yeah.
And I'm sure most New Yorkers might agree with that. So,
Yeah, like
so yeah, so London's always been this great place for me to come back to and be connected to everything. And I've always just felt it's probably the one city in the world where I felt very, very at home in.
mm. Yeah, you and I were talking about, yeah, me too. I have that affinity with London. And I I believe it's one of the few capital cities in the world where the seat of government, the seat of the banking, the seat of
Mm.
culture, education are all in one place. And tourists,
Yeah,
like tourists are walking down the road and number 10 Downing is just there. That's the seat of government. It's just
yeah,
like behind that
yeah,
wall is where the
exactly.
it's like amazing, right?
Yeah. Totally, totally.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's like that. It's just a really interesting place, and and like the weather's not brilliant, but like like what you were saying as well. It's like I don't I don't notice it so much,
mm. Hmm.
and I've been as cold as I was in London as I was when I was like staying in New York for longer
Mm.
periods, winter
Mm.
there.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's good. I really, it's a great place to be. I probably can't do a whole year here anymore, but I do a lot of traveling. So I'm sort of in Goa and India, or so I've just been, in Brazil for 3 months.
Mm. Mm.
Mm. So it's nice to sort of be able to go away somewhere and explore and then come back.
Mm. Yeah, last time we spoke, if I remember correctly, you fell in love with this woman in India, and you were back and forth
Yes.
between India and London, and you were starting your group of helping people find their purpose. Do you want to say more if anything changed since then? What's new?
Yeah. So it's been another sort of roller coaster for me. Yeah, so I kind of gosh, what's happened there? Yeah, like so I've really delved into the sort of coaching work that I do, and working from authentic desire, connecting to what it is you authentically want to feel in life, and taking steps and taking actions from that feeling. And I've That's my practice, right? So that's how I live my life, and it's just created this amazing flow. And and then that took, from London, living in London and having this life where I was married and I had two different careers and a very different life, to then in like 18 months going through this 180-degree shift to living in Goa with a beautiful, amazing Russian girl with three daughters in a beautiful place, and still living in, coming back to London, and then, connecting with, the Huni Kuin tribe in the Amazon, and working more in sort of plant medicines and supporting, their work around that. Um, this amazing, crazy life opened up, and now it's like it's sort of shifted away. It's just shifting away from Goa. It seems like
Mm.
last year was really interesting in that. Um, had this really beautiful relationship, but it was kind of, I could see we were really, I was really sort of stuck, I think, and I think she was kind of stuck,
Mm.
and it was like the life we had together wasn't giving us room to expand and grow.
Mm.
And
Mm.
and I'm someone who's very connected to my purpose, and that's, doing the coaching work that I do, but also it's supporting, the Huni Kuin with their mission, and the indigenous, promoting indigenous voices and
Mm.
helping them connect to like a more global, getting their voices out there so they can connect to like the global kind of conversation.
Mm. Mm.
And and then, yeah, so I sort of realized last year that, our relationship was probably going to end, or it needed a sort of space for something
Mm.
else to sort
Mm.
of urge. And then as that was kind of happening, I was back in London, and the fires in the Amazon
Mm.
happened, and so suddenly that was the big, the global focus was on that,
Mm.
and it just happened to coincide with my involvement with Extinction Rebellion,
Mm.
and because they were very much wanting to have Indigenous voices be front and center of some of the actions that they were doing.
Mm. Mm.
That had a lot of Indigenous connections at the right time, and I had
Mm.
some of the guys, some of the spiritual leaders from the Huni Kuin had just arrived in London, and it
Mm.
coincided with a big protest that happened outside the Brazilian embassy.
Mm.
And so suddenly, like, I was in this kind of position where I was helping organize this big protest and bringing them in. And it was this huge thing in London. There was
Mm.
over, I think, over 1,000 people, like right outside the embassy. The Huni Kuin spiritual leaders came, and it just changed the whole vibration feeling of the protests,
Mm.
and in a really sort of beautiful, powerful way, which is, that's their magic, is, they really sort of connect you with a different feeling that transcends the kind of, push and pull of, that we get caught up in protests. It's like us versus them,
Mm. Mm.
and for them, about connecting everyone together.
Mm.
And and the next thing is, like Leonardo DiCaprio is like retweeting photos of them on his Instagram account, and
Mm.
some of their music's getting played on BBC Radio, and we
Mm.
end up getting invited to one of the top 5 banks in the world invited us to meet with
Mm.
them and talk about leadership,
Mm.
and all these sort of things started, just in my life, just kind of entered into this other sort of realm with them, and and I just sort of found, I'm sort of helping lead a community here around the Huni Queen's work and
Mm.
the plant medicine work that they do, um, yeah, so that's a really big community now. It's kind of growing really quickly.
Awesome.
So I had a lot of responsibility and things shifting, and then I sort of went out to the Amazon again and
Mm.
spent a sort of an extended time out there.
Mm.
So yeah, this is kind of I've been stepping into more of a sort of leadership role in some ways, and it's like the horizons are becoming bigger.
Mm. Beautiful.
World
Yeah.
opening up.
So could you tell me more about the Huni Kuin people? If I remember
Yeah,
correctly, did this start because you were a filmmaker, right? And you made a film there. Is that how your connection with them started?
kind of it. Yeah, I was invited to a festival that so the Huniquin are from they're a tribe, one of the biggest tribes in the Brazilian Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
There's about 12,000 of them in the state of Acre,
Mm-hmm.
which is up near the Peru border.
Okay.
Um, and back in 2013, some of their sort of leaders, one of their leaders in particular, Ninoa Paidamata, was invited out to the UK to connect with a community out here and started doing some of his work out here. And he created a festival in his
Mm.
village. And it was going to be the first festival, and I just happened to be invited to that festival, and I did a little film about it.
Mm.
Um, but that trip kind of was a big turning point in
Mm.
in my life, and then what followed in my life was kind of born there. I think just
Wow. Yeah.
connecting with them on that level, and then suddenly the last sort of 5 years, I've just been on this really amazing journey with them. Going back to the festival and working more closely with them when they tour around the world, and when they're on their mission to sort of connect with communities around the world. Um, and they're sort of sharing their culture and the plant medicine work that they do, um, and they've had a huge impact on me, and a lot of what they teach is it's all about living from a place of joy,
Okay.
and that just always really resonated with me. Um, and to sort of and it inspired me as well, because the indigenous in Brazil are sidelined a lot,
Mm.
and
Mm.
they have a lot of they have a lot of adversity, a lot of challenges,
Mm.
not just to survive in the forest, but also in how they're treated outside of the forest
Mm.
by Brazil,
Mm.
by the government, by kind of corporations coming in, and industries coming in and decimating the Amazon.
Mm.
Um, you know, indigenous leaders, environmental leaders getting killed, for example. That happens quite a lot in Brazil,
Mm. That's so.
and yet they still have this joy about them, and
Mm.
that's how they meet the world from that place.
Mm.
So that was really inspiring to me. Like, if they're trying to live from that place with all of that adversity in their life, then that's something that I could aspire to do in my sort of more comfortable Western
Mm.
lifestyle experience.
So maybe it's impossible to do so, but maybe we could try. How do they live in joy, and what would their particular embodiment of joy look like? Just to give a sense of an idea of what it is, because sometimes you know in the way we live, there's a in I've been thinking about, what is joy really? Is it
Mm,
pleasure? It's not pleasure. Is it getting what you want? Maybe that's not it. Is it meaning? Maybe it's closer. It can be quite a range, right? Of things
yeah,
that can be bundled into this one word.
yeah, totally. Um, I think it's too like for them. What I've noticed is, so I just spent like 2 months in the
Mm.
forest, and one of those months was doing some of the some training with them. Just like it's like a dieta they call it. You do a very strict or relatively strict diet,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and you work with in a dieta you work with different plants to get, gain knowledge, to gain healing, to get stronger.
Mm.
Uh, and one of the plants that we worked with really was about joy
Mm.
and
Okay.
living. And so part of it's like it's a mindset,
Mm.
and for them, anything that negative comes in, anything that turns up in life that's negative, they have to find. They just have this natural, innate ability just to find the positivity in that, or turn it into
Mm.
something positive. Um, and so part of it's that, just the sort of the mental side of it, but then like it's the embodied side of it is just it's just how they interact with you. Like
Mm. Mm.
it's just how they express themselves, and that comes through in their culture and in their music and in their spiritual practices.
Mm.
Um, and that space, that joy to them is the ultimate force for transformation.
Mm.
Um, you want that, and that's what I mean. That's what's so inspiring about them is meeting adversity from that space of joy, that feeling of joy, and they cultivate that every day through having a
Mm.
positive mindset, through connecting with the music that they play, that they create.
Mm.
They have this amazing music. It's just I remember like I went to my first ceremony, with plant medicines, and someone, the shaman there sang one of their songs,
Mm.
and I didn't understand the words, and I only heard it once amongst a whole night of music.
Mm.
And that the melody of that song and some of the words just stayed with me for like 6 months.
Wow.
And that song is kind of what calls me to go to the forest in the first place. And
Mm.
just like this music kept coming back, and it kept connecting me to this sort of hope and this feeling that like, and there was a point where I was in a very I was going through my marriage was breaking up at the time, and a very dark, heavy
Mm.
place. This song would come back and really, I
Mm.
don't know, just going. And so that's kind of how they do it. It's just woven into their daily life.
Mm.
Um, and it's not like it's a practice, but it's just such a natural thing for them.
Mm.
Um, be that way and to live like that, and and they're very connected to. I mean, obviously they're very connected to nature because they live in the middle of nature. Like you
Mm.
can't escape nature. But nature is such a big teacher for them, and just being in that communion with nature is a big influence on that feeling and promoting that feeling of joy.
Mm. So is that what plant medicine is about? Is it like knowing all the plants in the ecosystem you live in and being one with it to get
Yeah,
so how would it be different from, let's say, people who do herbs and that, like, I have a headache, I'm gonna get this
yeah,
root for something. So there's that
yeah.
bit, but then
Like say, like with Chinese medicine, for example.
yeah, yeah, and also there's a lot of people. I haven't done it myself. Like, I think
Mm,
even in Sydney now, maybe every week there's some ceremony
yeah,
happening with
yeah,
ayahuasca or even Cambo, the frog thing. I just don't know
yeah,
how that sits with you because you've seen in one of the communities I participate in. We call this like psychotechnologies. These are
Yeah.
technologies that affect your, you know, neuropsychology. But
Yeah.
usually it's embedded, right? It's embedded in the whole way of being. And there's always this question: can you just take the actual plant and use it without, I don't know, getting. You and I have this affiliation or training with the tradition. There's a whole lineage. You can't just
Yeah.
get the technique out of the lineage because something bad but will happen, right? So, or
Yeah.
something at least not bad, or something will not be right if you just take what.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think plant medicines have found, and intense, deep relationships with plant medicines, whether that's just herbs or whether that's psychotechnology. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that term. That's a great term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's a technology. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
totally technology, and that's what I love about it. It's like technology that's just embedded in nature,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like whoever created this system was like, how can we make this really accessible? This technology, like,
Mm.
oh, let's put it in the plants, because they're going to eat them anyway. It's like,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, you know, and so yeah, so like there are many traditions around the world. There's a lot of indigenous traditions around the world
Mm.
that have relationships with plants in different forms. Um, and within those cultures, there's different lineages as well.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, the Amazon is incredible for that because there's so many different tribes that have
Mm.
different lineages. Not all of them have psychotechnological relationships with plants, but
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
they have relationships with other plants, and
Mm.
there's definitely like the two that I'm really familiar with are the Huni Kuin, and then there's the Yawanawa,
Mm-hmm.
who are a neighboring tribe. Um, they work with very their traditions are very similar in how they work with plants,
Mm-hmm.
but the flavor of those traditions is very different. Um, is that like the Huni Kuin culture is probably it's more of an unbroken tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Yawanawa traditions kind of because they were decimated basically because they were like probably one of the tribes that had very early contact with.
Mm.
Um, so they've had to sort of rebuild their culture,
Mm.
and so I don't know. It's got this kind of I think it's a very different flavor. I don't know if that flavor of their tradition is from what's being recreated or whether that's something that was always inherent in Yawanawa culture, but very different and equally powerful.
Mm.
Um, but definitely important to sort of connect with a tradition in working with different plant medicines, whether that's the herbal variety or the technological ones, simply because they've got more experience.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's than anyone in the West. They've got so much more experience and knowledge,
Yeah.
um, and um, and that makes that work. We're from a meditation tradition
Yeah.
that's really powerful because there's a lineage there.
Yeah.
There's a transmission that comes through, and
Mm.
some of that you understand mentally, but a lot of that's happening spiritually
Yeah.
and beyond the mind. So sometimes
Mm.
it's hard to understand what that transmission is giving you until maybe later on.
Yeah.
Um, but ultimately, sure, you can take a plant and it's going to have some positive effect on you.
Mm.
Um, I think it can probably, it's just that you're missing out on so much.
Yeah.
That's kind of my point is like, why would you want to just go and do it yourself when you can get so much
Mm.
more tradition? It's
Yeah.
like, And that's what blows me away about these tribes is the tradition that comes through,
Mm.
um, the power of that transmission that they bring.
Mm.
Um, and and then eventually, you might not realize this in that moment, but later on, you understand it, and yeah, and then the thing about plants as well is, the spirit of nature is in those plants,
Mm.
so those plants are always also connecting with you, and so yeah, so having that kind of connection with the masters that understand that, they know how all that works, and things can, and then the thing to say is sometimes things can go really, really wrong, not
Mm.
because the bad or not because the masters are bad. It's just because you don't have the capability to understand what is happening.
Mm. Mm.
You're not prepared for it in the right way, or you know, it's going to overwhelm you at some point.
Yeah.
You need the right people around you that can guide that and help you get through those periods.
Yeah. Yeah. I was having this discussion with a friend about this, and we were talking about, you know, the difference between states, this
Mm,
high states and process.
mm,
Because I think, from what I see, there's a tendency within the current or the Western, not even the West, not just in the West, but there's a certain group of mentality of consumption. So I'm just gonna
mm,
turn up. So every year for a few days, I'm gonna go to Bali or to South America. I'm gonna get these high states from these plants, and I'm gonna go
yeah,
back to my life. Forget about that, and then until the next year. And it's like,
yeah.
is that really what we want from this? Because like, don't know if you know the author Jamie Wheel and Stephen Kotler. They wrote this book, Stealing Fire, where they talk about
Oh
like,
yeah, no,
yeah,
I love it. Actually, I just started rereading it actually, because I've been
yeah.
recommending it to a few people. I
But
thought,
they
I'm
were
just going
actually
to go back.
worried that all the reason they I've listened to some of their interviews. The reason they wrote this is they want to preempt the commercialization, the weaponization of this, so that it's out there. But at the same time, now they're worried that, because these are powerful techniques, right? They could be misused. So I guess, yeah, there's that being consumption, or being, there's this thing happening in Silicon Valley that we will use these things to make people more productive as
Yeah,
employees,
yeah, yeah,
which is like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It's like co-opting the spirit, right? I'm interested to see what you say about that. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. But that's happening, in meditation and mindfulness as well.
True. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like Goldman Sachs has a resilience program, they call it. Letting people be more resilient so you can put up with the
Long
intense
hours.
work life. So you learn how to meditate and be more mindful.
mm.
Uh, which isn't what it's designed for. Uh, but
Mm.
here's what I would say. Just talking about mindfulness first is somehow that connects you to something else, to another consciousness, and then this knowing comes through that. Um,
Mm.
Connecting. I mean, I kind of believe that everyone is inherently good,
Mm.
actually.
Mm.
But what I think happens is we're completely disconnected from our feeling state from our bodies,
Mm.
but then also from our sort of the more sort of spiritual, higher sort of self,
Mm.
and we live primarily from the mind and from you know our ego construct
Yeah.
of who we think we are and who we want people to think we are.
Yep. Mm. Mm.
Uh, when people start to connect to feeling and then they connect to spirit, something starts to shift
Mm.
and a
Mm.
journey begins that might take lifetimes or it might take moments.
Mm. Mm.
And um, so, yeah, so like while mindfulness has this, it's been kind of co-opted and
Mm.
people are using it to do bad things, destroy the planet, make more money.
Mm.
Um, there is a shift happening, and I see that a lot in the coaching work I do. I see that a lot in the mindfulness
Yeah.
industry, like that I'm connected to. And that's something you see probably all the time as well.
Mm.
Just through doing a simple practice, whatever that is, it changes you.
Mm. Mm.
Um,
It's a good reminder.
so I kind of, yeah. So and I feel that's the same with plant medicine as well,
Mm.
and with psychotechnologies.
Mm.
Um, it's going to have some good effect on you. It may mean you crash and burn at some point,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but that's okay
Yeah.
because then you see the lie that you're living,
Yeah. There's like
and then you go, okay, right, this is really powerful. I'm gonna go and do this properly.
yeah, it's like
Uh,
sometimes we need to deconstruct some of the rigid structures of our
yeah,
consciousness so that we could build
yeah,
again. Otherwise, it's too rigid. You need to deconstruct.
yeah,
It's not just the
yeah,
consciousness; it's even the life we live, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
even moving. Yeah, like you would have experienced moving countries can smash
mm,
certain samskaras. You know,
yeah.
certain
Emotional
patterns.
trauma,
Yes, certain
pattern, yeah,
patterns that your environment reminds you. If you change the environment, sometimes you get
yeah,
at least a couple of years before they catch up again.
yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah.
But but that said, I mean, I totally, the last thing I want to see happen is, like there's a lot of psilocybin studies happening at the moment.
Yeah, they get
With
funding now. It's quite legit now, right?
Yeah, like in
Mm.
America and here in London,
Yeah.
and the results of those studies are like really amazing in terms of
Mm.
people that have clinical depression,
Yeah.
uh, and but the last thing I want to see is that some of these medicines are kind of only accessible through going to a doctor and sitting with a psychotherapist.
Yeah.
Like I think there's definitely like a place for that,
Mm.
but you know, but and things like happening. This has just happened in the States. Is some company now has trademarked psilocybin,
What?
the word psilocybin.
Crazy.
So, so yeah, like this
Mm.
is like so that is something we're going to have to sort of deal with,
Yeah.
and the next thing is someone's going to trademark ayahuasca or
Mm.
cambo or
Mm.
all these words so that no one else can use them. It's like,
Yeah,
um,
that's certainly something we should fight about. Which brings me to Extinction Rebellion. It's really
mm,
the heartland of this is really London, right? It's where the biggest,
mm,
because there's a few events here in Sydney, but I don't think it has the same momentum as you have it
yeah,
there.
sure, yeah.
For those who, yeah, can you tell us more about how that works? Like, it was just started by people, right? And it just grew.
It was started by there's a core group
Mm.
of the people that lead Extinction Rebellion. They started it. There was a long kind of, from what I understand, it was a couple of years before they really built it into what became Extinction Rebellion.
Yeah.
Um, and my entry into it was through. It was actually really amazing. I was really curious about what they're doing. When they did their first big action last year, 2019, in April,
Yeah.
I was in Goa at the time in India, yeah, I was really sort of excited by what was happening and inspired by it, and wanted to get involved somehow. And came back and then met a friend at a party, and I was just sort of expressing how it'd be great to do something at the Brazilian embassy about what's happening in the Amazon,
Ah, yeah.
um, what issues that are happening around that. And she sort of like, without, she basically said, "That's great. There's something happening. I can't tell you about it, but just come to this meeting on this time, this certain time." Um, and I went to a meeting, and I just thought it was going to be like an information thing about an action they were doing. Um, and and it was really funny. There was a small group of people there,
Mm.
and most of them were under the age of 25,
Uh-huh.
or they were sort of, there was a few people over the age of 60,
Mm.
and it was me and my friend who were like late 30s, early 40s,
Mm.
and, and the guy leading it was this guy called Fox. He was like 25,
Mm.
and then they're talking about what they're going to do, and I'm like,
Mm.
this is fucking crazy. Like, I don't know if you guys know what you're doing. I don't even, like, you're 25, man. Come on. And then the next thing is they're like asking me, can I help? Can I do, like, there's a key part of the action that needs to happen, and I don't know if anyone to have to help coordinate it.
Uh-huh.
And can you bring one of your indigenous friends along? Do you know anyone? And it so happened that I could bring someone really amazing from Ecuador.
Mm.
The next thing is I'm in it and doing it, and we're at the Brazilian embassy, and there's police everywhere, and it's like
Wow.
wild circus experience.
London, baby. London.
Yeah, and but really beautiful, and really empowering. And
Mm.
what I love about Extinction Rebellion is how it's very decentralized in terms of the leadership. It's like you want to be part of it. Like, bring something. Like, well, how do you want to protest?
Ah, okay.
That's kind of
That's interesting.
what one of the messages I get from them is, these are the actions that we're doing. Now
Yeah.
you bring yourself to that action, and you express your rage the way you want to express it.
Right.
Um, so and that's what's really cool. Is like sometimes you have like, I remember there was like a group of mothers with babies came
Mm.
along and
Mm.
set up their little protests. It was like,
Mm.
mothers against what was happening, whatever the action was. Um,
Mm.
so it's like, it's really, really inclusive, and it's really empowering, and
It's very
this is on
emergent.
you to do it.
There's no like top-down planning. It's really bottom up.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, like sort of lateral,
Mm.
Um, and then like the big experience. I mean, yeah. So there was this protest outside the embassy when the fires were happening. But then the next big action with Extinction Rebellion was last October, and I got involved in that because there was a spiritual leader from Brazil coming, from the Huni Kuin coming again,
Mm.
um, and they were, one of the sites that they were going to take over was Trafalgar Square,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and they were really keen. The organizers of that site were really keen to have a Amazon Brazilian presence there,
Mm.
and wanted to do something on the opening day, like when they took over the site. They wanted to sort
Mm.
of lead with a prayer from someone from the Amazon, and bring the Brazilian
Mm.
um, you know the joy that Brazil kind of has in their culture. I wanted to sort of bring that to the protest,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and which is amazing. Like, it's,
Mm.
rather than it being kind of angst and rage and the fight, which is really important, but also to bring this other element. And and it was, the experience was really wild because I turned up on the day at the appointed time, thinking, the coordinators would be there to tell me what to do, and it's a protest, it's chaos, and I can't find anyone. The phones are all jammed,
Oh, wow.
and uh, and I've got like, these Huni Kuin spiritual leaders about to arrive, and I'd organized 20 samba drummers to come
Uh-huh.
and do some samba,
Mm.
music. And then I've got like a really well-known Brazilian singer
Uh-huh.
coming, to do some of his songs.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'm in the middle of Trafalgar Square. I'd been told there was going to be like amplifiers and a stage, and everything was going to be taken care of,
Uh-huh.
and of course it wasn't. And that was kind of, I had this moment of like, what do I do? And then I sort of remember like, this is, Extinction Rebellion is like, what do you want to do? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, right, I'm just going to organize this thing. We're just going to do it right in the middle here of
Yeah.
Trafalgar Square.
Mm.
Organize the drummers to sort of get going, and they started coming down from the Brazilian embassy towards Trafalgar Square, right in the
Mm.
middle of the road.
Mm.
And it was like thunder, the sound of the
Mm.
drum,
Mm.
all the buildings, um, and then they arrived, and of course that created a lot of attention. And then I found the coordinators of the site, and they're like, brilliant, it's chaos, sorry about that, but let's do it.
Do
And
it.
they so we built this, they started building a stage, but we had to distract the police from what was going on with the stage so they wouldn't, confiscate it. And built this stage, the amplifiers turned up, and
Wow.
next thing is, there's all this Brazilian music happening in the middle of Trafalgar Square, in this middle of this protest, thousands of people there, police everywhere. Um, and then did this, we had like Chana Ikakuru, one of the spiritual leaders of the Huni Kuin, did a prayer,
Mm.
um, and it was really really powerful. And then he sang a few songs, and we did a big something they call a jiboya dance, which is like, it's like a sort of, everyone links up, and it's like you dance. It's like a snake, a
Mm.
human snake.
Mm. Mm.
About over 300 people in that jiboya dance,
Mm.
and that's a pray. Like that's how they create the energy for the prayer to sort of manifest.
Wow.
Uh, and it was this massive thing. It was really amazing to be part of that and have the space to sort of protest like that, and
Yeah.
bring indigenous leaders, bring the Brazilian spirit
Yeah.
to Extinction Rebellion. And it was really interesting. Like, a lot of the sites got closed down over the course of that sort of week, but Trafalgar Square was the one that sort of was the last one standing, as it were.
Mm.
Uh, and I sort of feel like the energy that we all collectively created there together sort of really, there was something, there was something there, something
Yeah,
really
the
beautiful.
Huni Kuin brought joy to the protest, not just anger.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, totally. I mean, like there's anger there. I mean, there's other forms of joy there as well, for sure,
yeah,
like different
yeah,
expressions of protest. But yeah, just, I don't know. It's just that impulse, that feeling was really planted there, I think.
mm. It's beautiful.
Um, and it was like, we were protesting, but it was like a festival.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Why not? Because
yeah,
really, when we protest, it's to assert our humanity, right, against
mm,
the obstruction of money, corporations. Because these things are not the real things. The real things are the humans. All these things are
yeah,
like the ideologies. They're just
yeah,
abstract. They're memes in the
totally,
technical
yeah,
sense.
totally.
They're controlling the humans. But hang on, we're the humans. You're just an idea that's
Yeah,
trying to take over.
yeah, exactly. That's it. and that's the thing. It's like that's what I realized. That's why this is what I've realized through working with the Huni Kuin.
Mm.
That's why the force of transformation is joy. Like that's the ultimate. I mean, love as well, but to me, joy is like an extension of love. Like joy is love with will,
Mm.
with like verticality, like real.
Mm.
You know, like that's joy. And
It's like a beaming, radiating, right? It's like,
yeah,
mm.
and that's ultimately like we have all these ideologies. They're all competing. They're all kind
Yeah.
of. But to me, it's like which is the right ideology to have in life as a human being, and that's the one that whatever that is, it's the one that connects you with joy
Yeah.
and love,
Yeah.
and that's why it's really important in protest to connect with that feeling, because that's the feeling that's going to connect with the human parts of the person that's kind of opposing you, and
That's
that was
true.
even in there's all these police. There's a big police presence there, at Trafalgar Square, for example, and some of them would say like,
I want
they'd
to
be
dance
telling
with
us,
you.
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
they're
yeah.
like, we're doing our jobs, but we're with you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, yeah.
some of them would say that, like, they'd be trying to like take things away or trying to like arrest someone, and they're like, I'm doing my job, but I really believe in what you're doing.
That's beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
And that was the other interesting thing was, you know, through all of that experience, we ended up in, like I was saying, we ended up in one of the top 5 banks.
Mm.
Huni Kuin leaders meeting with
Hmm.
executive level
How was that? That
leaders.
would have been interesting, like in terms of astrology. I don't know how that and
Yeah,
ethnicity. It would
yeah,
have been amazing to observe. What did you see?
yeah. It was fascinating
Mm.
because kind of what you just sort of said about there's all these ideologies and competing ideologies, and we're in this meeting, and we meet with someone he's like the head of one of the big departments.
Mm-hmm.
um, and he was very interested. He's you know I think he was a lot more open-minded than say someone you get who works in, say, on the trading floor, and
Yeah, yeah.
and invest
High
maybe I don't
frequency
know.
trader.
Yeah, yeah. And they just started. There was no like agenda about your banks investing, you know, in really destructive industries in the forest, and we want you to
Mm.
stop
Oh wow. Just
about that.
straight.
It was
They just
like,
landed it straight.
yeah, it was like,
Wow.
what it was like. What opened up was like, what do you're part of this big bank. What's the hardest thing about your job?
Good question.
And I was like, how can we help? Like that was the Huni
mm.
Queen's kind of
That's an amazing.
mentality. And
It's like a jiu-jitsu or yeah, it's like a aikido.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah,
But it
yeah.
was just, like, we ended up suddenly we're talking about leadership,
Wow.
and they're talking about, these are the sort of leadership challenges that we have as an organization. That was kind of one of the reasons why they wanted to sort of potentially meet, was hear a different perspective. And just to sort of say that, there and this was the big thing that blew me away was, we see these organizations, these corporations, industries as horrific things, doing bad things to the planet,
Yeah.
which is true.
Mm-hmm.
But inside those organizations are human beings,
Yes, yes, yes.
and they feel to varying degrees. And there's a lot of people in those organizations that have exactly the same values as the people that live in the forest, or
Yes.
like people like you and me.
Yes, yes.
And they're good at their job.
Yeah.
They totally don't agree with the values and the culture of those organizations.
Yeah.
And for a lot of them, over time, it eats them away, and then eventually they leave, or
Yeah. Yeah.
they just, they hate themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like, so to be there with the Huni Queen was such a sort of, it really inspired a lot of talk
Huh.
in that bank.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then just to go back to sort of, the sort of the kind of corporate meme, that kind of what's happening at that sort of
Level.
super
Yeah.
astral level,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, is the collective consciousness of those organizations.
Yeah.
There are people that are plugged into that and like that's their identity, and then there are people that are like a bit more fluid with that.
Yeah.
They're not so bought into it, and
Yeah.
it really ruffled the feathers of those that it's like if
This
that's
is me.
their
This is me. I
full
am.
identity,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
then it was a big threat. Just them being in the building was like, we're under attack. Holy shit, we need to shut this down. This is like,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but and what I realized, like I've got some very close friends there now, and that's that kind of mentality, that kind of those kind of people. It's a very small minority, actually.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
they might sort of be sort of more of the sort of positions of authority there.
Yeah.
Um,
Because to get there, you in a way to get to the
yeah,
top, the meme must like you. Must be able to use you.
yeah,
Otherwise, it
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah,
use.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to like that as well. Like you have to
Yeah.
take it on.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to
And
imbibe the
yeah,
actual
and you have to
superstructures.
perform, you have to deliver,
Mm.
and but yeah, what I've noticed is probably the bottom 70% are kind of like they're a bit more human,
Right. Yeah.
and then maybe the top 5% are the visionaries,
Mm.
and they
Mm.
see what needs and they want to make changes, but they have this upper third,
The middle.
like the upper management,
Yeah. Yeah.
who have their positions of power or control. They
Their
have
own
their way. They're
fiefdoms.
nice,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, they've got
Yeah.
their little empire, and
Yeah.
they've worked hard, and they've sacrificed a lot of their humanity to get there,
True. Yeah.
and they don't want to give that up.
Mm.
And,
Mm.
and they have a very narrow viewpoint in terms of they just want to make money.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
so, so it was really interesting. Like, there's a lot of support from those. If you're willing to go beyond what it is a corporation does and connect to people on a human level
Yeah.
and just connect, like not try and convince them
Yeah. Yeah.
they're doing bad things, but just connect to them on a human level. A lot can come out of that,
Yeah.
and I'm really surprised, like what actually can happen, even though what you do might not have a direct impact. It sort of sends ripples,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and it was really interesting. I got out of the Amazon, and a friend sends me an article saying that the CEO of BlackRock, which is like an
Yeah.
assets management company,
Yeah.
one of the biggest in the world, probably the biggest in the world, own like over $4 trillion worth of assets around the world. What they own is bigger than like the Brazilian economy, which is one of the biggest economies in the world.
Mm.
CEO announced that they were now changing their investment policy
Mm.
to come more in alignment with sustainability goals and environmental goals,
Mm.
which was really significant because up until that point, they'd been resisting that, even though their shareholders were also calling for that to happen.
Mm. Mm.
And so finally, that company is kind of coming around now and at that level. And the
Mm.
guys with the visions, they see what's coming.
Yeah.
They see that if you want to make money in the future, and if you want your brand as a company to survive,
Yeah.
you have to be in alignment with the planet.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
It's very obvious if we just remove some of these blinders, right? You can,
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
like, what's money
yeah, and I think
in a dead planet?
exactly.
Money is useless.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
what do you do with it? I don't know.
Exactly. Um, what is it? Like they're doing all of this just so like a metric on a stock exchange can go up.
Yeah,
Wow.
these are just ones and
That,
zeros inside computers. If you really think about it, at the end of the
exactly.
day, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. Mean anything,
Mm,
except maybe another zero on your bank balance.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but if you've already got a lot, like how much do you need? I mean, it just plays into all of that. But so yeah, so like just seeing that and yeah, that's where it comes back to the whole joy thing.
Mm,
Like
mm,
like everyone wants to feel joy,
mm.
and if you can live your life from that place, then it's going to have a positive effect on the people around you and on them, and it just has this way of taking you places where you wouldn't, opening doors that wouldn't normally be open before.
Amazing.
Um, Whereas if you just keep playing at this level of ideas and ideology and
Yeah,
someone's right and someone's wrong,
yeah,
then it's just dualistic all the time, and we're not going to get anywhere.
yeah. And
So,
another,
and,
yeah.
that, and this is the message. This is what I love about the Huni Kuin. Like that's their message. It's like
Mm,
live in joy, and we're all in this together.
mm.
Uh, and let's sort of connect to each other on that level, and then let's just talk and see what happens.
Yeah,
Uh, the Huni Kuin haven't. The Huni Kuin don't have an ideology really. Like they don't have a belief system in a way.
yeah.
They're
You,
not. They're never telling me what to do, like
yeah,
how to think.
yeah.
It's like connect to joy, and what do you want to do? How do you want to?
Mm. It's like
And it just naturally comes out anyway. Like it just life just aligns. You sort of feel you
mm,
connected to purpose, and from that place you're connecting with other people,
mm,
and adversities being transformed. You're overcoming obstacles. It's fun because you're in this joy state. It
mm,
doesn't have to be this. And you're healing as well, like healing trauma and
mm,
this kind of horrific thing. It's this joyful victory that you're feeling as you overcome deep, deep wounds and traumas that you've been through.
mm. It feels so good.
And and that's the practice. Like that's the only thing that you have to do and I have to do is just keep practicing that every day in everything that we do.
Wow, it
And
loops
that's how
back.
we.
Remember this practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I always remember this. Yeah,
it loops back to our beginnings in Clear Vision. It's
yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Totally, totally.
So is that what
Yeah,
the Hunikin people are when they travel outside of their place in the Amazon all
yeah,
over the world? Is it just to share their state? Because they don't have an ideology. It's just
yeah,
sharing their being.
yeah. Totally. Yeah, they want
Yeah.
to share their culture, but also they're really curious about the world, and
Oh,
they
that's
want to
true.
learn.
They also want to see what's going on outside. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Part of it is they don't want to be. Part of it is they have this really amazing culture,
Oh, tell us
and
more. Tell us more.
and they're very proud of their culture,
Mm-hmm.
and they love to share their culture.
Mm.
I play a lot of their songs and I do a lot of their chants and sing a lot of their music.
Mm.
They love that some white guy from the other side of the world is playing their songs.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
And that's like, to them, you know, that's the ultimate compliment.
Right. So it's not this narrative of cultural, is it misappropriation or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not quite, I mean, yeah, at that level, it's like it's great.
Yeah.
It's different when it's like me. Okay, I've learnt their songs. Now I'm gonna,
Trademark
um,
it.
yeah,
or
like
or go on a
I'm making
cruise or
money.
something. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's not when that starts to happen. Then it's without that connection.
Right.
Um, then it's kind of it's going down the cultural appropriation path. In
Right. I guess the difference is with you. You were there, so
I'm there with them.
yeah,
I'm
they
I have
transmitted
the
it to
connection.
you, and then now you can share it
Yeah,
because they've given it to you
yeah,
freely, something like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like I'm connected with them.
Yeah.
I'm not going off and then doing it in separation to them.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm weaving. I'm part of their culture now. Like I'm weaving into their culture. They're weaving me into their culture.
Yeah. So in a
There's space for
way,
me to get in.
yeah, they'll also learn from you, right? That their
Yeah,
culture
totally.
might
Yeah,
change from you being in it, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, totally. And that's the other thing about them is, they want to go out and see the world and
Mm.
show themselves and connect and be part of the global conversation and be listened to. Um,
That's beautiful.
they're but they want to learn. Like they're
Mm.
learning, and they're making mistakes as well, just like we
Mm.
do.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they always say this, like, we'll be in the ceremony, and these guys are masters in what they do, like in healing people and the ancient chants that they work with, the songs that they work with,
Mm.
the lineage that they're connected to,
Mm.
their relationship with the spirits of the forest, with the forces of creation, um,
Mm.
with the plant medicines.
Mm.
Um, they're masters,
Mm.
but they're always learning,
Amazing.
and they're very clear about that. Like, you know, they don't refer to themselves as masters. They refer to themselves as students
Oh
of,
yeah,
of
amazing.
nature.
Mm.
Uh, and that's, yeah, when I see them like that, it's just really humbling, and it's just such a
Mm.
privilege to be around people like that.
Mm. Mm.
And it's just it's really empowering as well, because suddenly I'm just learning, you
Mm.
know
Mm.
everything. We're just, and as humans, we're learning.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah,
we're these we're all immense spiritual beings, actually.
yeah, yeah,
A human body, a limited human vehicle,
yeah, yeah.
learning how to be with each other in this kind of context, and making really bad mistakes sometimes, and doing sometimes really evil things to each
Mm.
other.
Mm. Mm.
But we're sort of learning, like it just gives us, it's like permission to sort of make mistakes, and
Mm.
be really good and be bad sometimes, and
Yeah.
but to stay connected in that, and yeah,
Yeah, it feels to me
uh,
that you have a more holistic, and because you've lived with them, you have a more holistic and realistic view of them.
mm,
Whereas people who are actually just looking from the outside may either dismiss them or put them on a
yeah,
pedestal that these people can't do wrong. Yeah,
mm,
yeah, yeah, but you're seeing the whole thing, right?
yeah,
The whole, yeah,
yeah, yeah, totally,
yeah. Mm.
totally. Yeah, like in a lot of ways, they're very advanced people,
Mm.
um,
Mm.
but on a surface level, they're very simple people,
Mm.
um, which to me is like actually a sign of an advanced people, actually.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking this the other day or in the past that, like when we study civilizations, or we always revere, or most people do revere civilizations that left something, like they left pyramids, or they left the
Mm,
Colosseum, they left
mm,
aqueducts, viaducts,
mm,
whatever. But I was thinking, actually, a more advanced civilization would not leave anything, because that means that
mm,
civilization is biodegradable. They're not
mm,
live when they die. the civilization dies with them and the earth goes back to what it was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
isn't that more advanced? Because that's where we're heading now. We want not to leave plastics and shit and all these things
Yeah.
for the next
Yeah.
civilization to discover it. So a really advanced civilization would be circular economy. So everything they did would just be
Totally.
absorbed by the earth again. That's a really advanced
Uh,
one if you think about it, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Mm.
And like push that even further is like a really advanced civilization would put all its technology and everything you need to live life in nature.
Yeah, because it's the best. It's the best packaging. It's the best
Yeah.
replicator, and
Yeah.
it doesn't consume
You, you,
much electricity. You know what I mean? Like the brain, it's like how many watts is this? Is this? It's
I know.
amazing, but it's just low voltage.
Yeah. It's like this whole nature's this whole automated system
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
that just runs, and all we have to do is just be in harmony with that and just work with it, and then
Yeah, it's very
that's it.
Yeah, just don't stress it too much, and it will just go on, right?
Yeah. 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 Totally.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, no, I love that. I love that. I think that's really true, and and living in the forest as well. It's like that's something that really I really understood about them.
Hmm.
Like, but also to say like living in the forest is really hard work. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
this idea that indigenous people in the Amazon are lazy and all these kind of cliches.
Yeah. That's hard.
It's like I wouldn't last. I was there for 2 months. I could probably have done a few more months. It was, it wasn't too bad. But you know, most of us wouldn't last a month in the forest
This
in
is
terms
a
of what it
tropical
takes to
forest, right?
survive.
Where everything can kill you.
Yeah,
Not
I mean,
really.
there's lots of dangers. There's
Yeah.
lots of dangers there, but once yeah, like it's not too bad. Yeah, you got to be careful. Like, there's lots of things that things can go wrong very, very quickly in the forest. Let's put it that way.
Right. So you have to
Uh,
be really aware. Yeah. So
yeah,
mindfulness there is not just an option; it's a requirement.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally, totally.
Mm.
It's a very awakening place to
Yeah.
live, actually.
Mm. Mm.
Um, so, but yeah, like just to sort of this other little thing I sort of noticed living there in terms of talking about advanced civilizations and
Right. Yeah.
the animal kingdom, the insect kingdom,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
like like just watching like ants are everywhere in the forest,
Mm.
and I had a lot of time to sort of just be in nature and just observe some of these things,
Mm.
uh, and wow, like fascinating what they
Mm.
do and how they live, the organization they have, and the impact that they have, and how they take care of the nature around them, and
Mm.
this ecosystem that's there that's kind of supporting each other. But it's also like there's this kind of fight to survive as well. But it's like this, forests are like these advanced cities and civilizations, and with culture and
Yeah, and they managed to negotiate to exist
yeah,
together because they're
yeah,
all competing for the sun, competing for the
yeah,
nutrients. So they found a
yeah,
way to make it work.
coexist, and yeah,
Yeah, for
exactly,
everyone,
totally,
not just monocropping that like we humans seem to like. Like we get rid of
yeah, yeah,
everything and just plant one kind of plant. All cotton here, all almonds.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah.
So it's like everything in nature is free. That's
Mm.
what I realized. It's like you know the ants are doing their thing, the bees are doing their thing, the mosquitoes are doing their thing.
But they
Um,
yeah. So this
Everything's just doing its own thing,
so this is the real
and
capitalism kind of thing. The ideal of capitalism by Adam Smith is like the invisible hand. So everyone's doing their own thing, but together it works. So it's
Yeah.
nature. Nature's we somehow
Yeah.
couldn't
Well,
we
it's like
couldn't replicate it properly in our system.
in nature, we kind of, different, there are different identities that kind of come together and, survive together,
Hmm. It's like
subcultures, as it were.
non rivalrous dynamics. It's like
It's yeah, it's like it's
win
just a
win.
harmonious. Yeah, exactly. Everyone gets what they need.
Yeah.
Like there's this amazing diversity there because of it, but it's also like nature sustains itself like
Mm.
in this way of like you know animals are eating insects and other animals are eating
Mm.
other animals. It's kind of like it just everything keeps its there's this keeping it in check kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's what they find out with national parks and that
Yeah,
when humans try to use logic, it doesn't work. Like, oh, we'll get rid
yeah,
of the
yeah,
wolves, and suddenly, oh, when we get rid
yeah,
of the wolves,
yeah, yeah.
things
It's
fuck
a really
up.
famous story.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, there's like like so there's like in nature there's this freedom and there's this without diversity there's no freedom. Like there's choice there,
right, yeah,
uh, like loads of choice,
yeah,
and but it's not infinite choice.
yeah.
It's like,
There's limits
and
to
that's where
the
the sustainability.
physics. This is
Yeah,
yeah, the physics of things.
what's sustainable? That kind of you know, and
Yeah,
but it just regulates itself. It just does it itself. There's no,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. It's like
um,
we're now learning that I learned that in design school. We're now changing from the old way of looking at maximizing things to optimizing things. It's not
mm,
trying to get as much as possible, but trying to get the
yeah,
right amount.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
sometimes if you want to get the maximum, you're gonna destroy the thing that's giving you
yeah,
what you're trying to get.
yeah,
Because I just want to maximize it, but maybe
yeah,
this is the optimal limit. That's it. And it's fine. It's
yeah.
fine to be just yeah.
Well, that's it. But that's what
Yeah.
makes it the optimal. This is the kind of paradox: is the optimal limit is actually infinite. Then, because if you can figure out a system that's sustainable, it can just go on and on
Right.
and on and on.
So because it's non-linear. Yeah, yeah,
And if you try to maximize something, it's like it it's kind of got a shorter lifespan.
yeah, yeah. It's like moving from complicated domains to complex because nature is complex, whereas most
Mm,
of the things men or humans do are complicated.
mm,
Like
mm.
a Boeing 747, an air jet. That's complicated,
Yeah,
but like an anthill is complex. Like
yeah, 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 yeah,
you
yeah,
have to
yeah.
maintain
Got it.
a jumbo jet. It won't maintain
Yeah,
itself because
yeah,
it's complicated. But then with things like that, we could list every part, and then we could just put
yeah,
those parts together, and we know how it works. But with nature, it's really hard because everything's happening at the same time with complex things. You
mm,
move one thing, the
mm.
whole thing moves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
There's no yeah. I think complexity science has reached that conclusion that it's impossible for any when you're in a complex system unless you're God, you're outside the system, no one can see the whole thing. You're just inside it,
mm,
and the best way you could do is probe. Just
yeah,
try things out and see how the
yeah,
thing reacts. Oh, that didn't work. Yeah, this is the learning part. You try to do interventions that are non-destructive or safe to fail. So if it fails, it won't crash the whole system. But that's the only way you could
yeah,
do it because you'll be fooling yourself if you think, "Oh, I see the whole system." No, you don't.
yeah,
No one
yeah,
does. It's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
totally, totally,
It's so
totally.
good. Like yeah, thank. It feels so good hearing you. I could feel the presence of the people through you. It's interesting how it carries.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. There's been a bit of
Mm.
a weaving over the years.
Mm.
Yeah, very much feel,
Do you feel different?
you know,
You feel different to me.
yeah, this time round, like it's, just to get back onto, plant medicines and, doing a dieta, doing a
Mm.
study for a period. And um, I think they explained it to me like this, like when you do a dieta for 30, like they do them for 30 days. You can do, like in different traditions, you can do like 7-day ones or
Mm.
slightly longer ones. Some traditions you do like a year
Mm. Mm.
working with one plant.
Mm.
But the way they explained it and the way I kind of understood it is that a diet is, you do a diet to wake up your will
Mm. Mm.
to achieve something you've done before, to break through a
Mm.
barrier. And then so doing a diet is bringing, limiting certain foods is bringing a discipline.
Mm.
It's bringing a sort of, and it's bringing a container as well.
Mm.
Like you do it for 30 days or 2 weeks or whatever
Mm.
it is. And in that time, you have to learn that thing that you want to, that you want to get good at, or
Yeah.
that barrier that you want to break.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, and somehow that's like a really powerful intention.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
so, and then like what you think in that period is what comes true, is what manifests.
That's amazing. That's a wow. Now that you say it that way, it lands more with me.
Mm.
Because at first I was like,
And
why do people do this? Is it just to
yeah,
experience it?
yeah,
But now you're saying it, it's like a cycle. You know, you go through a cycle. And you want to do
yeah,
something. You do that cycle, and then
yeah,
boom, and then you could do another one
yeah,
if you
yeah,
have another thing to. That
yeah,
makes a lot of sense, and you create the container for it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like landing a big impulse into the,
Mm.
um,
Mm.
and
Mm.
that's why you have to have a really positive mindset in that time. And that's why, aligning with having this mindset of joy is
Mm.
really helpful, because that's the ultimate
Mm.
experience we can have. That's the ultimate state.
To receive,
Uh,
yeah, whatever,
yeah,
and
that's the
to
transmission that
yeah,
you're going to get.
and to go through obstacles. Because
Yeah.
if I'm resentful, if I'm other than joyful, then it's really doesn't feel right, right? Because like I'll be
Mm.
fighting with myself instead of
Yeah, I mean, like
hey,
there's resistances coming up in that period, but it's like you have to keep coming back to. I mean, they say this is one of their sayings is only joy.
ah, hmm.
So adversity comes or resistance comes up, and it's only joy. Like, and then you kind of, and that's not to bypass anything, by the way. That's
Yeah, yeah,
actually to
yeah.
meet the resistance or the adversity from connecting to that mindset and finding that feeling in you.
Mm,
And so the
mm,
happens in the forests, because that's the environment that you're in, and like working with sacred chants that are sometimes generations old, sometimes maybe thousands of years old,
mm,
and doing that within a lineage, that's also being woven into your consciousness,
mm, mm,
and actually like on a chi etheric energy
mm.
level as well.
It's like many
It's like
it's happening all at the same time. Yeah.
yeah, it's happening at like a sort of the mental astral level. It's happening at the sort of the
The
energetic
biology
chi.
level. Yeah.
It's happening, yeah, and then you're starting to embody that,
Mm.
and that's what happened in that diet for me. And I think I was really lucky because I had the perfect preparation.
Mm. Mm.
to do that particular diet. That started back when I joined, meditation school that we were
Mm.
connected in,
Mm.
like a whole 15-year journey.
Mm. Mm.
It was like preparing me for that
Mm.
time.
Mm.
And there were people on that with me who also really benefited from doing that, but perhaps to a lesser degree
Yeah. Yeah.
than I did. Um, so, yeah, but and they still got a lot out of it. So,
Yeah.
the thing with when that weaving happens through a dieta, it's like that. It's just always there. It's like nature. It just keeps growing.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
It doesn't matter what you. It's just it doesn't take a lot of consciousness on my part to still feel that energy in me and to sort of transmit that energy, that feeling to the people around me. It's just
It's there.
inherent in me now.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it's that to say that is like really, it sounds really weird to say that actually. I'm like, am I saying that? That's crazy. But,
Yeah.
that's my understanding of it. And,
Yeah.
you
It,
know,
most.
that's why these traditions, these, very old traditions are really important
To preserve, to evolve.
to preserve for the planet, and for the future of the planet, like the planet being, nature, but also for humanity.
Yeah,
'Cause,
I'm with you on this one. I've been looking at this a lot as well, and I've been also looking at were they an oral culture?
originally, yeah,
Yeah,
and to a
non-literate.
certain
Yeah,
extent they still are. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
think there's something powerful, like what we're doing now, right now. This is like really an oral tradition. We're just talking. We're not writing
Mm,
stuff. We're not,
mm,
and I think, and I've been listening to podcasts a lot and
mm,
watching YouTube videos. These are really, it's like the oral tradition meets 21st century
mm,
technologies. Because there's something about
yeah.
the oral tradition in the sense that the more we do this, the more I do this, the more it becomes part of me, which is true. Because the more I talk
Mm,
to people about certain topics, I don't even have to think what I'm gonna say. It just comes out of the body. It's an
mm,
amazing thing, right? Like
yeah, 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 yeah. It's embedded in you. Yeah.
yeah, like we're talking now. We didn't we have no map of what we're gonna talk about, but there's some, it happens, right? And there's
Mm,
just a trusting in that human process of talking, of
mm,
communicating without without distilling it too much. Because I mean, writing is good in that it's good in distilling stuff, making it more compact, more structured. But then it also loses the
sure.
being
Yeah.
in, instead of me. Oh, where's my notes? It's already in you. You don't need
Mm,
the notes. It's in your body. You know.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. It just
Ah.
may take a bit longer for us to sort of embody it
Yeah.
and in that way, and but that's kind of, that's the goal, I think, is and you
Yeah.
can't do that. You can't embody these things without having it be an oral sort of thing. So,
Yeah, and that's why songs are good as well, right? Because songs
mm,
easier to remember, and then you could
mm.
do it in your spare time. Like I just completed this Lomi Lomi Nui massage
Ah, yeah,
course.
yeah,
It's a
that
whole.
one massage.
This is this Lomi Lomi Nui is really a psychotechnology. There are
Yeah,
songs. There's philosophy.
mm,
Like Ike is awareness, Pono is wisdom, and there are songs and there are dance movements. So it's a whole system. You know, what people see as just the massage is just one bit of a whole web. I think. And
mm,
yeah, I think we're missing that kind of teaching in the current
mm.
higher
Yeah.
education where everything's in
Yeah.
departments and
Yeah.
departments compete with each other. Whereas I think
Yeah.
in the
Yeah. Yeah.
ancient traditions, it's just one thing, you know? The food you
Yeah.
eat, the songs you sing, the places you walk through, they're
Yeah.
just all one thing. It's not like, oh, you have to do something different when you're learning from the cook or and then get rid of everything you learn. So when you're doing the science part, it's different. But to them, it's what do you mean? It's the whole thing. Everything's just connected. You know?
Mm.
It doesn't mean they don't go
Yeah.
deep because you would experience they also go
Yeah.
deep with the.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Totally.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm. I think it's a good time to end this
Yeah.
one.
I think
Unless,
we covered a few topics, I think.
yeah, yeah. Is there anything else you want to say for this one? And I'm sure we'll catch up again. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like if people want to connect with me,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they can connect with me on Facebook or on Instagram as the Human Experience Coach.
Oh yeah, I saw your new
Uh,
one. Yeah,
and yeah, I mean, I guess drop a few links
yeah.
on YouTube. And, yeah, and I have a YouTube as well, so I haven't been using it that often lately, but gearing back up to get into that again. But yeah, there's people interested more in the sort of philosophy that I have in that. So that what I'm talking about with the Huni Kuin
Mm.
has kind of that philosophy has kind of worked into my coaching framework now. And,
Awesome. Yeah,
I've got an online course, free online course that's called the Beyond Limits.
yeah. Mm.
It's the 5 limits basically. I talk about the
Mm.
things that limit us and how we beyond that. So yeah, that's something that people can do and check out.
Yeah.
It's like an hour and a half online
Awesome.
course.
You've certainly
Very
done that.
accessible.
Living in the forest and
Yeah,
stuff, yeah. And the dieta.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You've certainly broken some limits, I would imagine.
yeah, definitely. No, it's
Yeah.
a pleasure to catch up again, man, and
Yeah,
always
it feels
really
good. I
enjoy
feel
our
like wow. It's like it would take me a few days to digest everything we've discussed, but it feels
conversation.
really good. Yeah.
Nice, cool,
Thank
man. All
thank
right, lots
you.
of love. Talk to you
Yeah.
soon. See you in London soon.
Yeah, the desire is there. So I'll be there.
Okay.
Good night. Good night in my part. Good day in your part.
Yeah, yeah. Ouch, ouch.
Ouch.